When someone asks, how do I help my executive become a thought leader? What they're really asking is, how do I help them understand why this matters? How do I show them what's actually possible? And how do I get them to take this seriously without it getting dismissed like everything else that we've already tried? Because the reality is, most executives have tried a lot of things. They've posted on LinkedIn, or they've had lots of content created that's been ghostwritten. They've done PR, they've been on podcasts. Many executives have even written books, and none of this stuff has produced results. So when you bring up personal branding, it just gets grouped into the same category, another initiative, another experiment, another thing that sounds good but doesn't actually change anything. So if you want your executive to take this seriously, you don't start by talking about content. You don't start by talking about platforms, and you definitely don't start by talking about being more visible. You start by helping them understand what this actually does. Because when personal branding is done correctly, it doesn't just create awareness, it completely changes your position in the market. And that's the part that most people miss. The real outcome of personal branding, it's not views, it's not followers, it's not engagement, it's becoming the go-to authority in your space. Not just known, but known by the right people for the right problem at the exact moment that people are looking for a solution. And that's what everything else is built upon. This changes how people find you, they choose to work with you. So if you're trying to explain this to your executive, this is the shift that they need to understand. This is not about promoting themselves. It's not about talking about their story. It's not about posting more content on social media. This is about being positioned in front of the right audience at the right time and helping them solve a real problem. Because when that happens, something very different occurs. When someone finds them in the moment when they're stuck, when they're searching, when they need clarity, and your executive is the one who provides it, they don't need to be convinced. They tell themselves, this is the person who can help me. And that's where everything starts to change, because now you're not trying to build trust. Trust is already there. You're not trying to generate interest. The interest already exists. And you're not trying to convince people to take action. They've already decided that they want help. Instead of chasing leads, you start attracting inbound opportunities. And not just any leads. These are referral quality people, people who already trust you, who already believe in your expertise, and who are often ready to move forward before the first conversation even happens. So think about what that does for your business. Every sales conversation becomes easier. There's no resistance, no skepticism, no need to prove credibility, because that was already established before they showed up for the call. Now compare that to everything your executive has already tried: cold outreach, paid ads, PR exposure, social posting. Many of those things interrupt people and cause them to put up their defenses. So then your entire sales process works to convince them to take down their defenses. Personal branding does the opposite. It meets people where they're already looking and builds trust before you ever speak to them. This is why it works. Now here's where this becomes even more important from a business perspective. When your executive is positioned this way, they're no longer just another voice in the industry. They become the person associated with that specific problem. And that only happens when you narrow the focus. You don't build a thought leader by trying to speak to everyone. You build it by owning a category, which means being very clear on what they're known for, who they are speaking to, and what problems they solve. Because when someone has that specific problem and your executive is directly tied to it, there's no competition, there's no comparison, there's just alignment. And that's where real leverage starts to show up. More opportunities, better opportunities, higher quality conversations. You now have the ability to be selective and the ability to raise your prices, and doors that wouldn't normally be available start opening. One of the biggest objections that I hear is that this sounds like it's going to take a long time. And that's a fair concern, but the truth is, if your executive already has expertise, the experience and the track record, then this isn't about building something from scratch. It's about positioning what already exists. And when that's done correctly, this can happen much faster than you might think. It's not years, we're talking about a few months. Because you're not waiting for attention, you're placing them where attention already exists. So if you're trying to get buy-in, this is the conversation that you need to have. Not about content, not about platforms, not about posting more, but helping them see what's possible when positioning and trust are established. If you want your executive not just to create content, but actually become a true authority in your space, you need to understand what this actually requires and who should be guiding that process. In the episode I'll link to right there, it's called What is a Personal Branding Coach? You'll find that not everyone who uses that title is helping you achieve this outcome. If you choose the wrong approach, you'll end up repeating the same things that didn't work before. But once you understand what this role should actually look like, you'll know exactly what to look for and how to move forward with confidence. I'll see you there.